The US troops began withdrawing from northeast Syria ahead of a Turkish invasion that aims to create a so-called safe zone in northern Syria, which is practically an area where Turkey will force the Kurdish fighters to live and settle hundreds of thousands of Syrian refugees, a move perceived in Damascus as an attempt to change the demographics of the area in order to create a geographic belt inhabited by pro-Erdoganists and later called for a referendum and joining Turkey. This move by Trump's administration sparked anger among the Democrats and the so-called Western left that once again proved that many of them are ignorant and delusional enough to serve as a weapon for American empire. Stop whining about poor Rojava being betrayed as if we should all be deeply upset that the US is withdrawing from illegal occupation. Prior to the illegal US intervention in Syria on September 2014, the YPG had essentially a non-aggression pact with the Syrian government, so they could both concentrate on fighting common enemy, that is al-Nusra and ISIS. And by April 2011, the Syrian government had granted citizenship to 300,000 stateless Kurds. After the YPG gained the support of the United States, they turned on the Syrian government that had previously protected them against ISIS. Then they got the US to repeatedly sabotage on their behalf the efforts of the Syrian government to defeat that common enemy. They attempted to dislodge the Syrian National Defense Forces and Assyrian militia checkpoints in Hasakeh in January 2016. Then in June and August 2017, they got the US to shoot down Syrian jets that were targeting ISIS because they wanted to grab as much as land as possible. Land that was historically never even Kurdish. They say that they have no friends but the mountains, and they find themselves deep within the plains of historically Arab Assyrian Syria. In December last year, when the US threatened to withdraw, the YPG threatened to release 3,200 captured ISIS prisoners to raise awareness, prompting the Syrian government to divert its forces to Deir ez-Zor just in case they made good on their promise. They didn't because the US stayed. In July this year, it was revealed that the YPG were selling stolen Syrian oil to Israel via their agent Kahana Mordechai, whose company, the Global Development Corporation, has been awarded the right to represent the Syrian Democratic Council (SDC) in all matters related to the sale of oil owned by the SDC, according to leaked documents. These oil assets are Syrian state-owned property, which prior to the war supplied oil at subsidized prices to all Syrians. However, now it's being sold to Israel, Syria's enemy, while Syria is forced to rely on shipments sent by Iran around the tip of Africa, which then gets seized by the British Navy, all because the SDF would rather sell to Israel rather than to their Syrian fellow citizens. The Syrian government's frustration with the YPG is therefore entirely understandable. The YPG will not tolerate Turkish-backed Al-Qaeda, FSA or ISIS militias on the territory they control, but had no problem allowing the US to bomb Syrian forces, even if it means raising the possibility of the rest of Syria being overrun by the same forces that they want the entire world to save them from. Also, the Kurds are not the poor oppressed victims of history. They are a proud martial people who for centuries were well represented among the ranks of successive Islamic hegemons, beginning with the Salah ad-Din Ayyubi, the Sultan of Egypt and Syria, who defeated the Crusaders and slaughtered the Shiites after overthrowing the Fatimids. When the Tamarin of Calicut needed help against the powerful Portuguese navy of Catholic Sea terrorists, the Mamluks sent Emir Hussein al-Kurdi, who defeated the Portuguese at the Battle of Chaul in 1508 alongside the Sultanate of Gujarat. During World War I, the Arabs took up arms against what they considered Turkish imperial rule after centuries of being economically underdeveloped, the wealth of the empire being concentrated in western Anatolia, and the period in which Yemen suffered terribly from Ottoman invasions. Back then, Kurds mostly sided with the decaying caliphate against the forces of Arab self-determination while taking part in the genocides committed against Armenians and Assyrians, artificially tipping the demographic scales in their favor. The PKK, to their credit, acknowledged this strategy and have apologized for. The point isn't some simplistic Kurds are bad argument, but that the narrative about Kurdish victimhood, which is quite fashionable among Western liberals or leftists, it flies in the face of history entirely and has been contrived since 2014 to justify an illegal US occupation of Syria. If the YPG doesn't want Turkish aggression, then they should allow Syria to reclaim sovereignty over all territories east of the Euphrates, which would mean they would gain the protection of Russia and Iran as well. The fact that they are well armed now means they have bargaining power against Damascus to push for greater national rights.
الأمريكي لن يحميكم. الأمريكي لن يضعكم لا في قلبه ولا في حضنه. الأمريكي سيضعكم في جيبه لكي تكونوا أداة للمقايضة مع الدولارات التي يحملها، وهو بدأ بالمقايضة. إذا لم تحضروا أنفسكم للدفاع عن بلدكم وللمقاومة فلن تكونوا سوى عبيد عند العثماني. لن يحميكم سوى دولتكم. لن يدافع عنكم سوى الجيش العربي.
Syrian Analysis is an independent news and analysis platform. Please don't hesitate to support the channel through Patreon, an online sponsorship platform that enables me to create more content to you. Link in the description below.